Yeah. Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome. Thank you for joining us on this live. This is our second live in collaboration with Stone Soup and SWMRT. SWMRT is a collective of SWM practitioners that are working towards inclusive livelihoods, clean air, clean food, and safe water. And today I would like to introduce our guest, Malini Parmar, who is the co-founder of Stone Soup and a member of SWMRT. But today she is here representing her two daughters who lead a very active life. Welcome, Malini.
Thank you.
Moving on to Shyamala, who is a wellness, health, and environmentalist educator and a recreational athlete. She has spent the last 5 years helping people to transition to plant-based diets through her company Sampurna Ahara, which is a local enterprise that is plant-based and zero waste. Welcome, Shamla. And
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. And lastly,
they're saying that there is an echo.
oh, from my end?
Hamza is saying there's an echo, a small echo. Anyway, continue. Okay. We'll see if it will continue.
And lastly, I'd like to introduce Vani, whose passion for composting inspires us all. And she leads a sustainable lifestyle. Vani, over to you to introduce the session today.
Thank you so much, Vedika. And hi, Shyamala. Hi, Malini. And hello all who have joined us. I can see a few familiar names out there. So today our focus on this session is sustainable menstruation for girls and moms of girls who lead active life. Neither I'm a mom of a girl nor do I, use the cup, but I am a big part of this movement because we all believe in low waste living. A lot of folks ask us what are the options, for young girls. We'll be talking about that. So today we have two young girls who bleed green. That's what we call it. And of course, Malini, the mother of two young girls who are athletes themselves. And they are they have switched to, sustainable menstruation. And of course, Vedika, who has also been using the menstrual cup. And Vedika, tell us, what is your experience?
So I actually switched to the cup about 4 years ago. And the reason why I switched was my best friend at that time was using the cup. And honestly, it couldn't have come at a better time because I was at this time running. And I realized that while I was running, it caused a lot of rashes and I didn't know what to do. So I decided, okay, this is something that let me try it out. And I did, and I think it changed my life, and I have absolutely no regrets so far. And another thing that I'd like to say is before I had to think about like the pad and the waste and think about how I had to wrap it. And now that's something that I don't have to think about at all. Which gives me like a sense of freedom, I feel. Shamla, would you like to say?
Yeah, sure. I think my journey is very similar to yours, Vedika. When I started using the cup, I was running and cycling. And as you know, pads, just like you mentioned, rashes. And by the time I had also started understanding a little more about waste, that the waste that we create and the kind of impact it has on our environment. So I was very conscious of it. So when and I remember my first cup was gifted to me by Dr. Meenakshi Bharat. And so when that came by, I was just so excited, an option which was trash-free, which was economical and rash-free. It was just something that I immediately jumped on board, and that's early on. That's how I got started. I think when I started, this was in 2013 or 14. So there weren't too many people who I knew who had used the cup. So I actually kept the cup with me for a few months. I said, because someone said, oh, you got the wrong size or something. So I said, oh gosh, there are sizes, and I didn't know anything. And then I'd had a friend who had a difficult time removing the cup. So I said, wow, okay, is this going to be a problem? But I think in a couple of months, I just got over all that. And I said, you know what, let me try. What's the worst that can happen? And that's pretty much how I got started.
Amazing, amazing. So, Malini, you have two young daughters, and I remember when my niece Aarti came to stay with me, I said we don't generate sanitary waste in my house, and I gifted her a cup, and she immediately started using it, and she what she said was the liberation. To be so fully liberated from even thinking that you have your periods. It was so good, and it was such an easy transition for her. And of course, we continue not to generate any sanitary waste at our home. So, Malini, what's your experience with your daughters? And could you just tell the viewers, because most of them are they don't know how to introduce it to young girls. So, since the topic is that, please let us know.
So, like Shyamala, when I started using a cup, it was 2012. I'd read a case study about, I used to use tampons and I used to think they're environmental friendly. So then I read about the harmful chemicals which are there in it. And I saw a case study, and the day I read that case study, about a single tampon can create 1 ton blockages. So human beings have to go into the sewage lines and unclog it. It just killed me. And I switched to the cup. Of course, like that time, there was hardly any information there. So I had a little difficulty in removing it, and then I realized what I was doing wrong, which is the stem of all evil. And after that, there was Dr. Meenakshi Bhara, there was us, there was Shilpi Sahu, Claire, all of us just kind of banded together. There was a group on Facebook. We didn't even know whose group it was, but it said Sustainable Menstruation India. And over the next 4 or 5 years, we converted more than 20,000 women to sustainable options and supporting them. Of course, my daughter's her period started early. The elder one, she was around 8.5. So it was a surprise. We got a disposable, but then we ordered cloth pads, and she was using cloth pads from then for the next 2 years. Till she had a session in her school which said, the cloth pads cause cancer, and she should get her mother to spend a little money and buy her disposable pads, and how they're the hygienic things. And she went through 6 months of rashes, it giving her smell and headaches. She also started experiencing a lot of period pain. And both of us went on a journey together. I learned about the mind and the body connection. And she learned through her own experience why sustainable options are better. 6 months later, she was back to using her cloth pad. We tried, she was an athlete. She's always been an athlete. Even now she trains, and today she's at state level. She's won a medal at a national level. She hopes to be someday in Olympics, right? So we tried using a cup. The challenge was when we tried for her, she's 17 now. The information was very limited, and a lot of information on internet today is false. It's not the correct information. So what it recommended was something very tough cup for her, or a hard cup, and that gave her a trauma, nightmare. So she still uses cloth pads, doesn't use a cup. My younger one, on the other hand, had been in our composting Sundays. So Vani made her a green soul. Yes. She knew by 9.5, she was demanding, when will my periods come? And this is the green cup. And she saw the whole bunch of colorful cloth pads, and these are the pads I wanted. So she says she's never used a disposable. So she used cloth to start with because she's seen her sister. But with her, we tried a soft cup. And she's a gymnast, so she's now 15, but she's been using a menstrual cup since she was 11. So that was a long story, but
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's so inspiring that your daughters are so young and are so fit and have dreams of making it to the Olympics. I had a question for you, Malini. So I do know that a lot of women use tampons while working out. I was wondering, is there any advantage that the menstrual cup has over the tampons, and what would you tell our listeners about this?
Yeah. So a tampon is what I'd used all my life, right? Before I shifted to the cup. But once you shift to the cup, there's no looking back at a tampon. You need to, first is you need to buy month on month. I remember I'd been in IT in my previous avatar, right? So I remember being in Taiwan, not being able to communicate in a store shelf, not being able to read labels, and not able to find tampons on a store shelf. And so finally, I remember using and so uncomfortable. So you have to buy them month on month. If you've forgotten it in the middle of the night, it's just such a nightmare. Like Zepto ad says, sanitary pads, diapers, because they get over. Whereas it's just sheer saving. But more than that, I feel that I've found, like I talked about, mind-body connection. With a cup, I find that I'm able to smell my period blood. So when I had iron deficiency, I found that during that time my blood was smelling different. So it's like my monthly health checkup. I find by just looking at when I'm using the cup. Shamla, do you want to add something to
Wow,
that?
That's very interesting. I think, and this is something that's also a really good question in terms of tampons versus cup. So I remember when I learned swimming as an adult. So I was in my early 20s when I learned swimming. And at that time, I had no idea about the menstrual cup. And I remember for that 1 month, the time when I got my period, I used tampons. And I remember thinking, I don't know if anyone else has had this experience, but tampons are very drying. So very uncomfortable, definitely more comfortable than pads, but it still wasn't doing it for me. And I said, this isn't there a better option? That's what I remember thinking then. And fast forward to when I started using the cup, and I remember going on swims, and it's magical. When we say cups are life changing, it's absolutely, you actually feel it. You're like, why didn't I use this before? And it's absolutely amazing. And also the fact that cups are made from medical grade silicone, it's so much safer than tampons, which can get infected more easily, which have higher instances of causing the toxic shock syndrome. So I think overall, just from a health angle, cups win. Of course, there's no question of from an environmental perspective, Malini, I think you've already covered it in terms of you have to buy it month on month. You have to, it's a disposable at the end of the day. You still have to find a way of disposing it. So, I don't even think there's a comparison, although one would think there is. I think the experience is completely different.
That's fantastic. I always remember, Aarti, my niece. I mean, my experience with the cup is not me using them. I always show them. When I do my workshops, I say what happened, but I've never experienced. You said that you have never used before, and I wish I had my periods a little more when I discovered this, because it just stopped. So I mean, I missed out using it and feeling how wonderful it would have been if this is available for me when I was in my period time. And right now, all the people who are listening there have this chance to move to this amazing product, this contraption, which will be life changing for you. And I remember Aarti going on hikes, and she also cycles a lot. So she had a tour, Ladakh or Leh or somewhere. She long distance they were cycling, and experience of using a cup user was so magical for her, because she was not leaving anything in these pristine areas. She was not polluting it. Secondly, of course, I will come to that question. How do you manage if when people have to do all these hikes and treks and trips up the mountains and all? So how they use, because I know what she said, that she used a bottle, bottle water. There were no bathrooms available, but she would just out in the behind the bush, she would empty her cup and use a bottle water to just rinse her hand before she removes it, and then put it back. So it was absolutely no hassle. So what is your experience? I mean, Vedika and Shyamala, and of course Malini, if you can tell about what your daughters did. If many people ask that question, if there's no bathroom, what do we do? how hygienic is it to insert and remove every time? Yeah.
Vedika, would you like to go first?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Shamla,
sure.
go.
So I want to say that after I started using the cup, it was very convenient for me to go on hikes, and it practically felt like I was, I didn't have my periods. But you know what Vani said? That's something new because I mean, I have only done short treks. I haven't done treks where it's extended over a period of time. So I would always wonder that if it was my first or my second day of my period and I didn't have access to a clean bathroom, what would I do? But now that she shared this experience, I think that changes a lot for me, and I'm excited to explore longer treks.
Malini, I'm sure even for your daughters, they go on competitions and things like that. So maybe you can share that as well.
Yes, I mean, recently my daughter went for a competition near Kanakpura, and they said just to go to the toilet, it was a 10-minute walk. The bathrooms are not very clean. So yeah, everyone always, kids always carry a water bottle. So I just tell them use the water and you can use it. The other deal is when you wear a sanitary pad or even a cloth pad, every time you're going to the bathroom to pee, you need to kind of wash up. But whereas with a cup, when you go to pee, there is no blood, right? Because there are three different openings, really, and the blood has its
Yes.
own separate openings. So the bathroom or the peeing experience is that way much more cleaner for girls. So she just takes a little bottle water and does it. If there's no water or she has limited water and she's going to be out in the sun, I've told her it's okay to just, drain the cups and just fold it and wear it back. It's your own blood. Once you come back home, then you wash up properly.
Absolutely.
And
I think
like,
those are some. Sorry, go on. I
sorry,
thought you were done.
I also want to add that, with a market full of so many products to keep pH of our vagina clean, I love, and it took me almost 2 years to really, absorb it, what Dr. Meenakshi Bharat has been saying, that a vagina is not a sterile organ. It was part of a body that was designed to receive foreign bodies, right? So it has its own cleaners, it has its own mechanisms to keep itself clean.
Absolutely. I think those are some very useful tips that you've given. Just to add, because I think you all have covered most of it, just to add, I think one thing that we should remember is that the cup is made of medical grade silicone, which is an inert material. So it doesn't really get infected like other materials like your tampon or other things. It doesn't carry infection. So uh, it is very difficult to get an infection while using a menstrual cup if you maintain basic hygiene. And the second thing is that since you can use cups for anywhere between 8 to 10 hours. Maybe for some people with a heavier flow, it's maybe 6 hours or 5 hours. It's a long period of time. So it's not that every 2 hours or 3 hours you have to, keep emptying it and find a water source and all of that. So it's really not as much hassle. And if you have a medium to normal flow, you'll find that your entire day can actually go by except on your heaviest flow days, you won't really need to empty it in like an obscure place or anything like that. In majority of cases, you may be back. Like if you're going on a hike, it's probable that you're already back to camp or to a place where there is running water to do the emptying of the cup. So I think with a little bit of planning and understanding your body's flow and understanding which your heavier and lighter days are, this becomes a non-issue. So only on your heaviest days, if you're someone, let's say you have very heavy flow and you have to change your cup every 2-3 hours, and I'm just giving the most impossible situation. If you're in that place and you are in a jungle or something, on those days, maybe you want to use a cloth pad instead, or you can have a cloth pad as a backup to the cup. So if that is the worst case scenario, but generally for most people, it never comes down to that. And as Malini said, all of us carry water bottles. We have some water source, especially in India, infrastructure has improved to a point where you can find water sources. And the water that you need to clean the cup is very little. It's not that you need a bucket of water. It's like half a mug, you just need to
Yeah.
clean it. You can even wipe it dry and insert it. So just keeping all these pointers in mind, there's nothing to fear. You're not going to get an infection. I have changed the cup in a moving train, in a flight, in an air flight, where I'm saying small spaces, moving spaces. It's possible. It just takes a little bit of information, I mean, understanding, and also maybe if you're someone who's very scared, which is perfectly normal because this is a new product relatively for many people, there is a learning curve. So right at the beginning, you may want to wear it when you're at home. So you get the hang of inserting it, removing it, and all of that. And you'll be confident by yourself. You then don't need to think, oh my God, what will I do when I'm traveling? And if
Yeah.
Malini's daughters can do it at the age that they're in, I'm sure all of us can. So that's just my 2 cents.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we should start looking at why we should chuck this and bleed green, because all the problems that we have with wearing the pads. I mean, we all had horrible days when we had to go out and we couldn't change the pad and it's stinking, and you don't know where to throw it, and all the problems that I had when I was using a tampon, dryness in my vagina, and so much of itching and discomfort. All these, I think, because it absorbs not just the blood, it absorbs
True.
all the fluid around. So moving to sustainable alternatives is the one. And Vedika, yes, you have a question
Yeah, so there's actually a
for them.
question from one of our listeners. What if the menstrual cup gets lost and stuck while removing? Now, I understand that when you start off, it can be very intimidating, and I know it was intimidating for me as well. But one thing, when I switched, my sister also switched with me, so it felt like like I had like a support system, and I could always call my friends and talk to them about it. But what would you tell our listeners when they are switching to the cup, if there are any mental blocks, how to deal with it?
So,
Shamla?
Shamla, do you want to
Malini,
go first? Okay.
Malini, I think you should go first because with teenage kids, I think that'll just
Yeah.
set a good example.
Yeah. So we all have fears. We feel our vaginas is some, like a connecting pipe to literally our mouth, and the cup will just get lost there. So this is, 101. I'm going to just do a quick session on our anatomy. So this is the mouth of the vagina. It's one of the most sensitive part of our body. It's as sensitive as our tongue is. So it absorbs when you put a pad here. The blood gets absorbed by the pad, but the chemicals in the pads are absorbed by this part, and this is why we get itchiness, rashes, mood swings, infertility, and all those things that happen with the sanitary pad. But this part of our vagina has no nerve endings. So even when people get excessive dryness, sometimes with the stem they pull, if there are scratches, you can't feel it because there are no nerve endings. So when the cup sits here, you can't feel the cup. And I've forgotten so many times that my periods are going on because you just don't feel it. So this portion is all of 3 digits or around a finger long. After that, this is your cervix, and this is the mouth of the cervix, right? Look at this. This is like a straw. This is a life-size model. It's not that some women have cervix till here, some here, unlike what you see in a lot of cup, which is the right cup. This is what 99% of the women have. It's around 1 digit long. That's all it can go. After that, this is narrow like a straw. So your cup cannot just go inside and get lost. The stone soup cup is one of the shortest cups, and look at how far the bottom is. So what prevents you from removing it? How far it is? It's a fear. When you have fear, when your muscles clench. There is nothing you can pull out or insert. So you just have to do what Buddha said, which is 3 deep breaths. It relaxes your muscles and you can easily insert or pull out the cup. So that was my one-on-one on the cup. So the cup cannot get lost inside anywhere. Shamla, do you want to add to that?
Great.
Uh, I think you covered it all, Malini. I think for most of us, as Malini rightly said, you unless you have a very high cervix, even then it's not very high. It doesn't mean that you can't reach the cup. It's just slightly higher than what is probably shown in that model. So it's just about getting your mind in the right space, taking time to understand, taking time to really absorb that the cup can't get lost. It can't go up to a point where you can't reach it.
Yeah.
The thing is, as Malini also said, when you are afraid or when you have fear, then you feel like it's going higher and higher and you can't reach it. So just let go. And also when you're inserting the cup, there's no need to push it up, beyond. It just needs to go inside and slightly up, wherein it's not sticking out. That's it. You don't have to push it up like a tampon, or if you've used any other product that perhaps requires you to any type of tampon. Tampon applicators typically, kind of go deeper in. You don't need to do that with a cup. Understand, take some time to learn, and take time to learn about how to remove the cup, because once you're confident of the process, then this becomes a non-issue. And removing the cup is about just releasing the suction, not pulling it out or tugging at it.
Tugging at it.
Just take some time to understand, get comfortable with your body, and things are smooth most of the time.
Yeah. So I just want to add 2 more things. So this is the model, but this is not how our vagina is. So it actually goes like this towards our back. So when you're inserting a cup, the direction should be towards the small of your back. So the cup actually sits like this in our body. So this is the directionally. A lot of people try and insert and say, I can't insert the cup because my vagina would be small. A lot of people assume I have high cervix, low cervix, and I need to measure it. Actually, it's not required. What Meenakshi told us, and it took us a long time to accept that she's a doctor, she's a gynecologist, she knows best. But she says 95% of the women, this is the standard size of our vagina. Whether it's a small girl or whether it's a woman who's given birth to 10 kids. So what can do is this walls, which are like a balloon, they could become a little looser if you've had a lot of vaginal birth. And if after that you run marathons, they could still be as firm like a young girl, right? So no longer childbirth or age defines our muscle. So that's one. So the cervix length is typically same for most of us. It can, if you have a prolapsed uterus, so this has come actually down. It's a medical condition and you would know about it. So that's the only area where there's an exception there.
One more just to add, because when you said medical condition, I remembered if you have a retroverted uterus, you might have pain when you're inserting the cup. So, if you have a medical condition like that, speak to your gynecologist. There are still workarounds. You just need to understand why. So if something is very painful, just take a step back, speak to your gynecologist, reach out to any one of us if we can help you. If it is something that's non-medical, we'll definitely be able to help you with it. But if it is medical, speak to your gynecologist. It's not supposed to be painful in that way where, inserting the cup, maybe slight discomfort in the beginning if you don't know how to do it. But if something is causing you a lot of pain, then maybe there is a medical condition like a retroverted uterus or, as Malini said, if you have a prolapse. So these are things that you might want to speak to your gynecologist about.
Vedika, you want to pass this question to both of them, and you also can answer. It is about mind blocks. Why are there, why are people having some blocks about using it for youngsters, especially? What could be one or two major ones which who people who are listening can, get over that, the initial hesitancy on why it should be introduced to
So
young
I
people?
think one is if someone hasn't used a tampon before, it's quite strange to put something inside your vagina and have something stuck in there throughout your period. So that's something you need to get over. And I mean, once you get used to that, and you get used to the feeling of it, it's like it's very liberating. I just saw one of the comments that said the cup is so liberating, and I couldn't agree more. But I would like to bring up a few questions that maybe Shamla and Mani could answer from our listeners. One is, should the cup be sterilized? Uh, and how to choose a cup size when selecting one.
So go
Okay.
ahead,
I
Chandra.
think, yeah, I think for the first one, should the cup be sterilized? Please watch the previous video the previous live where Dr. Meenakshi Bharat is talking about menstrual cups. I think coming from a doctor, you might feel more reassured about, how to clean your cup. But just quickly speaking, it's not a requirement. If you're someone who's feeling extremely uncomfortable, or you have a paranoia, or if it makes it comfort, if you are feeling comfortable sterilizing the cup, you can, but it's not necessary. You just need to wash it clean, and I dry it out completely and keep it as well, so that there's nothing in the cup when I'm not using it. So I just wash it, clean it, keep it in a clean place. Basics hygiene, that's literally what I follow. I don't use soap to wash my cup. I just use normal, like, temperature or cool water. That's what I use, and I've used the cup for 6-7 years now. I've not had any infection or any problems at all.
So yeah, I would second that. There's a whole industry out there about talking about how we should treat our vaginas, right? And I think a lot of it is misinformation. I would also recommend just using plain water and to wash your cup. When I started using for 18 months, I did nothing, no soap, no sterilization. I wanted to get issues so that when I recommend to people, I know what are the kind of problems they'll get. And I got nothing. And then we had, of course, some people in our group who had OCDs, and they were the ones who were getting problems. And we traced it back to trying to sterilize the cup, which is use a good quality soap, which means, 99 bacteria free. So when you use something which is antibacterial, and most cups will have airlocks, right? Small holes. You have something antibacterial stuck in your cup. When it goes inside the vagina, it kills all the bacteria there. Now, our body's natural cleansers, which keep the vagina safe, are bacteria in yeast. So it kills all the bacteria, and what you get after that is a yeast infection. So that's a white discharge. Sometimes when girls wear cloth pads, they'll see suddenly in the middle there is those cloth pads, especially pinks, reds, blues. They've been bleached. That bleaching happens because your body is like kind of throwing out cleansers. There was some infection coming, and they've just, dumped a whole bunch of chemicals out there which have bleached your pad too. Or you'll see that in your panties too. If you wear dark color panties, sometimes the panties are bleached. Those are the chemicals a body generates automatically to keep it safe. So avoid anything which says 99% bacteria free. You can use, if you want to use soap, a mild soap. Best is not to use. The second is sterilizers, and there are sterilizers, you can boil this, that. We've seen so many women, burn their cup because they've forgotten, they're boiling it and they've forgotten it, and it's got burnt out, right? So no need to boil it. If you want to, there is a simple, easy sterilizer, which is just keep it in the sun for 10 minutes. If you want to keep it, I have a small tumbler which I've kept in the bathroom. So after my periods are over, I'll put the shower, the hot water, after I've cleaned it thoroughly. and I'll put it in that and leave it for 10 minutes. That's enough to keep it clean. It doesn't require an army behind it to keep it antibacterial, anti this, anti that.
Yeah. And the material itself is inert, so
Yeah.
it's not carrying around
Nothing
infection.
sticks to it.
Yes.
Malini, while you're in the flow of explaining that, what would your advice be to young girls who want to make the switch to a menstrual cup?
Do it today. This cycle. See, most people feel fear. So, having converted a lot of women, what we say is the day you're convinced mentally, just go and buy the cup. You'll have fears. Hang around in, so we run a lot of support groups. We'll share the link. Shanta will share a link. You can join a support group. Just sit there and observe other women. Buy a cup, sit there, observe other women. You'll see that there'll be other women who would have had so many fears, who were asking questions, and now, who had challenges, and then they're singing these praise songs and these odes to the cup. So that will sometime after maybe 3, 4, 6, 10 times like this, whenever you're ready, you'll find a courage and one day you'll try it. And there are not just the support team, but there are other women who are going through the same thing, right, with you. So somebody else will advise you, try something like this, keep your this, and we'll just transition it. So that's what I would advise. Join a support group because a lot of girls and women need help. Sometimes with the young girls, because of the fear, it's about what the society would think. There is a wonderful TED talk, which is by two women who've written a book called Wonder Down Under. And they call it the virginity fraud. I would recommend all moms who have young girls to read it. For most of the older women, they'll feel that it feels true. What they fundamentally say is hymen is a small piece of tissue which can break, which can grow back. It has nothing to do with sexual activity when you're young. So they found pregnant women with hymen still intact and stuff like that, right? So I think it's a big issue about a small tissue. But if you have those concerns, I can't thank my mom enough. When I was in 9th standard, she introduced me to tampon, and I've had freedoms. I've done taekwondo, horse riding, swimming, and it was so liberating. But if you have concerns, you can use cloth pads. There are these really colorful, pretty cloth pads that you can use. You can still be sustainable, right? So unlike old cloth, and they're so colorful and nice, and my daughter, every time there's a new pattern that gets introduced, she wants which one is the one I want. So I keep bumming hers because I want to show, how the pads age, right? So the colors will fade. But these pads, it's not difficult to keep them clean. Again, hot water plus blood is equal to permanent stains. All you have to do is soak it in cold water. 10 minutes, all the blood will get drained out. So in my daughter's case, she doesn't have time, and I don't have too much of time either. So there's a bucket, and she keeps putting her cloth pads in it. It all gets drained out. Next day morning, I just drain the water. I put fresh water and drain it to make sure all the blood is drained out. And then I put it with other clothes for washing. I just make sure that there's a little extra bioenzyme, so it's all disinfected. They go on the clothesline, they get dry. The sun is the best disinfectant. And she can use it again.
Absolutely. And cloth pads are so much more comfortable, right? Although they are pads, they don't cause the rashes. They feel really soft and comfortable. So it is a great option for people who have a mind block but want to be sustainable at the same time. And I think Vedika was also talking about mind blocks, right? So if you are a parent and you have young daughters, please talk to them about their bodies. Don't remove that environment of shame that we have when we talk about our bodies, or when we talk about our vaginas, or when we talk about periods. I think the more informed you are and the more awareness you have, the better it is for your children to learn and to have confidence right from the get-go, so they're not feeling uncomfortable or uneasy about having the conversations or using these products themselves. So I think it's so important to do that. And I think for older people who have these inhibitions, just educate yourself, talk to like-minded people. As Malini says, a support group can be extremely useful because you have other people who've been on similar journeys, who have overcome them. So you don't feel alone when you have a community of people who are all working towards the same journey. So I think that is really, it's really nice that you guys have that kind of community, and there is constant support that's offered to people who want to make the transition. Can you lift it a little higher, Malini, so that they can see the whole thing? Yeah.
So this is for the young girls. You'll see a lot more. That's the campaign Bleed Green. So it's SWMRT and Stone Soup together. What we want to do is, today most people don't know, like I didn't know when to buy my daughter a cloth pads, right? Because it came as a surprise. But nature actually gives you a lot of warning. Their teeth will fall, they'll gain height, their breast development will start. So it allows girls and mothers to know what are the changes happening and when they can expect the girls to have periods. It talks about the changes, and including the fact for the young girls that once you get periods, periods also brings a whole basket of gifts. It makes us more beautiful. It gives us those curvy bodies, so we now can wear strapless dresses that we want, and so small joys and big joys. It also gives us an ability that we can think independently, which is why we can fight now more with our parents, because our choices start becoming different. So that's a poster for schools. It says growing up is exciting. And we have for adults, so which talks about the harmful effects to our bodies, to the environment, and what are the alternatives. So we're going to be releasing these posters soon, and we would want if everyone can print these posters and put it in the notice boards. Help us create this awareness. The biggest challenge is not enough people know about it, right? So if each one educates 50 other people through this, we can reach 355 million menstruating women in India.
We also have one question that I see recurring. Are we doing questions towards the end, or how are we? We're doing it towards the end? Okay. Okay. So one thing that I think 2 or 3 people asked was, what if a cup leaks, does it mean you're using the wrong size, or why does a cup leak? So my observation and my learnings here is, you are either using the wrong type of cup or you're not inserting it properly. So when we say wrong cup, it could be various things. So today in the market, there are a lot of cheap Chinese alternatives that look like menstrual cups, but in my opinion, don't really qualify because they are just such poor quality. So again, these cups don't open up properly. There are a lot of leakage issues that we see with women who opt for these cups. So if you are someone who is on a tight budget and you want to, you want to opt for a cheaper cup, my suggestion would be to wait it out, save up enough, and buy a good quality cup that is made with medical grade silicone. I've been using the Stone Soup cup for the last, I think, 4 years. That is one thing, that an important thing that you want to do, buy a good quality cup. The second thing is, I've had friends who, who have been under the impression that because you are a bigger woman and you've been buying large clothes, so you're also buying a large size cup. And I know this may sound very funny to some people to say, what's the correlation? But it is like, if you don't know anything about it, that's probably how you're thinking, right? You're thinking, oh, maybe I need a bigger sized cup. This is also going to cause leaks. It's not going to open properly. It's going to be uncomfortable. So again, choosing for most people that I have seen, this standard cup size seems to be fine, and you want to just look at that as an option. But please don't buy a large cup because you are a large person. That's not how it works, and that also causes leak. The last thing is inserting the cup properly. So when you insert the cup, sometimes when you insert the cup, it remains folded, whether you're using a push down fold or a C fold, sometimes it doesn't open up. So a good way of doing that is to just twist the bottom. When you twist the bottom, the cup completely opens up. So then you know that it is open and it's there. And initially, if you want to check and if you want to kind of just make sure it's there, you can just give a slight, don't tug at it, but you can just check it to see if it is there or not. Just, yeah, like how Malini is showing, just very lightly, if you pull it, you will know that it is there, and just turn it around and it will open completely. So these are typically the reasons why we see cup leaks. Other than, I mean, the last reason, which I forgot, I know I'm going on adding reasons, but the last one is if your cup is full and then it's leaking, in which case it's time for you to empty it and reuse it. So that's one question that kept coming up that I wanted to address. Anything that I've missed out, Malini, you can add.
Yeah. So, like you said, everyone assumes I must be bleeding. I need a big container to like keep my blood, right? We bleed between around 30 to 60 ml, right? During the whole cycle. A cup this size is around 30 ml till the top. But because on the typical sanitary pad has a capacity of 5 ml, a large one has around 12 ml. So this gives you a context. Just because it spreads out, it looks more, we are not really bleeding. But along with the blood, we also shed lining. So you'll see a little lumps, and sometimes people feel, oh, what's wrong? My blood has all these lumps. Those are the wall of your lining, right, which is being shed. So it can take some bit of space. Now, coming to the right cup, we were told that age and childbirth and things like this determine, which is the right cup for you. We found that information to be completely false. Like I've seen someone like Shilpi Sahu, who's a marathon, she cycles to work. She would, so she's had a child, she's around 40, but her muscles are like really strong. So when your muscles are really strong because you run marathon, you're a professional athlete, then you need a tough cup, because what your muscles would do is kind of squish the cup and not let it open because your muscles are hard. Now there could be other thing, which is people like me who are couch potatoes, who don't exercise much, or like I said, very young girls, less than 16, when they're using a cup, because they have a hymen and the opening could be tight. If it's a hard cup, they would feel like it's really tough. With a soft cup, it's almost like they said, somebody told me it goes in like malai. So, it's much softer, it's easier to insert and remove. So for really young girls, I would recommend a really soft cup. But for 95% of the people in between, like Shyamala said, a regular cup is okay. Whether you buy a stemless cup or a cup with a stem, first thing you should do is just cut the stem. A stem is a vestigial organ, I feel, in it. A lot of people, sometimes they say, I use it to locate it. But a lot of new users sometimes use the stem to pull the cup out. The cup has a suction with the walls of your vagina. So imagine you stuck something on the wall with the suction and then you're trying to pull it. So it really can damage and create scratches on the wall of your vagina. The way to do it is pinch the bottom. The minute you pinch the bottom, it releases the suction and your cup comes out.
It should just slide out.
Yeah. It should just slide out. If you ever feel that you're putting force, that means you're doing something wrong.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that question came up. Someone else also asked another question. I'm just trying to locate it.
Shyamla,
Did
I'd
any of
actually like to combine two questions and ask
Hmm.
you if that's okay. So one
Yeah,
is
yeah, sure.
it's related to both questions are related to movement. One is swimming. Can you swim? And does it make a mess when you swim? And the other one is what are the activities that you can do on your periods when you're wearing a menstrual cup?
You can do everything. I'm sorry, I'm just jumping into this answer because my God, I remember when I started using the cup, I was cycling, I was running, I had just started strength training at the gym as well. You can do everything. You can like stand on your head if you know how to. Not that the cup will give you that magical ability. You should previously know how to stand on your head. But you can do anything from handstands to swimming to cycling, running, everything. And I'm combining another question along with Vedika's questions, and that is, will the contents flow back in? No, it will not flow back in. Even if you stand upside down, the contents are not going to flow back. It's a one-way passage, so it's not going
Yeah,
to flow back
from here,
anywhere.
there's a one-way passage.
Yeah.
Only sperms allowed inside.
Only sperms allowed inside. So the menstrual fluids are not going to flow back up. The cup is not going to go anywhere. So you can do all activities that you want to do and that you otherwise can do with a menstrual cup. It's absolutely liberating. I have spoken incessantly about the cup ever since I've started using it. All my friends, male, female, and otherwise, all of them know about menstrual cups, how to use menstrual cups, whether they use it as in, men who don't use menstrual cups also know how to use it if you're my friend, because that's how much I've spoken about it. And the number of times I've heard my friends say, my God, why didn't I do this sooner? Or this is so liberating. It's just absolutely, you have to try it to believe it. So, getting the right cup, learning and doing it the right way, it's a very smooth process.
So I like to add, we've seen
Now I'm tempted to use it.
women go deep sea diving with wearing the cup. We've seen going to water parks like Wonderla and of course swimming. But also we had a filmmaker who sent us a picture while shooting a film standing in the river Ganga. And she said, I just stood there for hours, right? Because I had to shoot that film. And you can do that, during your periods with a cup.
And it
Very,
is
Malini,
very
mixed.
liberating.
so there's one question where someone has said their gynecologist has asked them to stop using the cup because of an infection. Would you be able to shed some light on this? Does the cup cause any infection?
I have
Yeah,
not come across. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. So I've seen women get infections, and the primary infections come when they become OCD and they're trying to, put antibacterial soaps and cleaning. So that's one time I've seen women get infections or they get a yeast infection. Outside of that, we haven't. But we found that there were very few gynecologists who understand that. So we started creating a list city by city. So we have around 250 odd gynecologists who understand how to use a cup, what to use a cup. So we have in NCR, Mumbai, Pune, Bangalore. So if you want, you can, share with us which city you're in, and we can put you in touch with the gynecologist. If you want in person, if you're okay, like a lot of us are okay with Zoom sessions, so you can speak to a gynecologist anywhere. But all
Online
these
as
are gynecologists who are aware of what is a menstrual cup, cloth pads, pros, cons, because they've spent their time and trying to understand that.
understand it. Thank you. Yeah, that's so important. And just to add to what you said, Malini, I've not come across too many studies about cups causing infections directly. And I would also like to say that none of us here are doctors. So if you have a vaginal infection, you have to understand what the infection is. So you'll have to take a swab. You have to understand what strain of bacteria or virus, or what is it that's causing that infection, and then get to the root cause of it. If you're using a good quality cup which is made from medical grade silicone, the material is inert. It cannot carry infection. Nothing can stick onto this cup as an infection and transfer around. So you'll have to understand the root of what your infection is. It's best to have, maybe you'll have to go to a virologist. We don't know the extent of infection. We don't know what is causing it, what is not, whether it is the type of cup, whether it is something else, because correlation is also not causation. So I've had a couple of people say, I've had infections when I was using the cup. When I stopped, it stopped. That is not necessarily because of the cup. It could be because of something else, and you may have attributed it to the cup, and when you stopped using it, perhaps something else also changed and the infection went. So there are many possibilities is what I'm trying to say. And since none of us are doctors and we can't give personal medical advice, if you have an infection, you have to find out what is the strain and see where it came from. So just saying that I had an infection and it came and went with the cup is not enough information for us to give you any solution.
I would second that. Speak to a gynecologist is what I would recommend too. But somebody who's aware about the cup. So you can tell us the city and we can put you in touch with a gynecologist in that city who can.
And you may also need to do like a test of seeing what strain of infection you have.
So I think it's 5 o'clock.
Just one last thing. I saw a question go by, which was around period panties. Period panties are perfectly good, sustainable alternative too. We sell period panties too. They're not very popular. And when I looked at it, I thought this is the best one, especially for young girls, right? And my daughters got some. And then we realized what the challenge is. You want to change your cloth pad every 6-8 hours. But when you're wearing tracksuit, you're wearing a shorts and you're wearing a tracksuit, then to remove and change a period panty, it's a task. And then you have such a big bundle to, take it back or put it in your school bag. Pads are easier. But if you're somebody who wears a skirt or a dress more often, and so period panties are perfectly good, sustainable alternatives too.
Yeah, it depends on your lifestyle. If you're able to change your panties every time you need to, then. I think someone else also asked a question about their cups getting inverted inside quite often and if they should be worried about it. My 2 cents about that is, again, if it's either the wrong size, a poor quality, it's the same thing as a cup not opening properly. And it typically happens when the cup doesn't open properly. There is a chance that it gets inverted. So maybe it's the wrong size, maybe it's the material, or maybe it's just not opened correctly because perhaps use the technique that Malini just showed some time back, where you're just turning the base of the cup around and making sure that the cup is open. These are the 3 main reasons why the cup inverts. If you have done all 3 of these and you're making sure that it's an excellent quality cup, it's the right size, it's the right firmness, and it's completely open, I don't see a reason how it can get inverted. So just let us know if you're able to do these 3 things.
Shyamala, I've seen women getting their cups inverted. What happens is, you're supposed to put your cup inside and you leave it, right? It sits inside. You push it a little bit in. But sometimes when the cups have a stem, and especially for soft cups, which is what younger women should use. So when they push it with the stem hard to push the cup inside, because it's not completely inside, the stem is sticking out. So they should cut the stem. But when they put push the stem in, and that's when it's a soft cup, it inverts for them. So don't use the stem for anything. Stem of all, evil. So just ignore the stem and your cups won't invert.
Yeah, don't push and pull with the stem, guys. I think.
Yeah, just don't push. Just ignore the stem.
Vani, do you have any closing remarks for the girls who are making the shift to sustainable menstruation?
Each of you should take the decision with an elder in your home, your mother or sister, elder sister, so that you know you get comfortable exploring this opportunity to turn around your life. Because I think it's a game changer for every woman to use a cup and become get comfortable. So there are a lot of material that you can check on YouTube videos. Of course, there's so much out there, all experiences, and don't hesitate. Don't get very tensed about it. Relax, as she said. Breathe deep. Keep your muscles in a relaxed position so that you can start exploring and trying it. So even if you've had it for some time and you haven't, you're feared using it, take that one step. Don't sit on the fence. Move towards sustainable alternatives, which is going to liberate you, and it's one of the best things that can happen to a woman.
So true. Thank you, Vani. And thank you, Malini and Shyamala. Do you have any closing words?
Yeah, every period is going to be a happy period. You'll discover, the joys. So my daughter says that her best timings comes during her periods. And that's something that you can discover only when you've shifted. I find it's my most creative time. So discover all the gifts that periods brings to our bodies, to our minds. Our minds are on flame. You'll want to do so many. You'll want to change the world sometimes. So yeah, you can. So every period can be a happy and fulfilling period, and that's what I
Absolutely.
wish
And
for all the women.
same here. I wish that every one of you gets to try the cup. I wish that it works for every single one of you. Also, nothing to do with being young or active. You can really sleep peacefully when you're wearing a menstrual cup because you're not worried about, oh, should I be in this position or should I be straight or whatever. So it's just all around an amazing option. It's cost-wise very effective. So if you are on a tight budget, please save up for it and buy it because you will save in the long run. Menstrual cups can be used for up to 10 years, and it's a no-brainer really. I wish you all a happy period.
Thank you, Vani, Malini, and Shyamala, for being on this call with us today.